Welcome to the deep dive. Are we seeing a fundamental changing of the guard in basketball?
It certainly looks like something big is happening.
Yeah, today we're diving into an article that suggests America's, well, its long-standing dominance might be facing a serious challenge, and it's all happening at the college level.
That's right. We've got some fascinating information here. It really paints a picture of a rapidly evolving landscape in NCAA basketball.
Okay, so our roadmap for this is an article called The International Surge in NCAA Basketball, a wake-up call for American talent development.
Right.
It's part two of a series by Mark T. Armstrong. He's the founder of the No Backboard Basketball League, or NBBL, published April 28th, 2025.
And the first part was about the NBA in Europe, but this one really zooms in on college ball.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really get a handle on Armstrong's core findings about this growing number of international players in NCAA Division I.
And what he thinks it means, for how American players are developed. Think of this as getting you up to speed quickly on a potentially surprising and, frankly, pretty significant shift in the sport.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The article kicks off with some numbers that definitely make you sit up and take notice.
Yeah.
So in 2024, NCAA Division AC basketball hit a record number of international athletes, 1,654 total.
Wow. Split pretty evenly, too, right?
Yeah, 826 men, 828 women. But what really stands out is the jump from the year before.
Okay.
5.8% more men and a 7.1% increase for women. That's not just a small bump.
No, that's a considerable jump. And it gets even more interesting when you look at the bigger picture. Armstrong brings in this FIVC's migration reports from 2024.
Right, FIBA being the international body, CIES the research center.
Exactly. And get this, it shows a staggering 113% increase in global basketball transfers since the 2010-11 season.
113%.
Yeah. It really hammers home this idea that the U.S., historically, the heartland of basketball, is seeing this huge influx of talent from overseas.
So, okay, undeniable surge. Now, Armstrong takes this a step further. He argues it's not just demographics changing, but maybe a sign the U.S. is losing its edge and potentially failing its own athletes in some way. That's a strong claim.
It is. But the data seems to, well, it gives it some weight. It definitely raises the question, why is this happening?
And where are they coming from?
Well, Armstrong points out that the majority are coming from Europe. Specifically, 41% of the men and 53% of the women.
Huh, mostly Europe. So why the NCAA? Why come here?
According to the article, a big reason is limited playing time back home.
Okay.
He gives this really stark example. Argentina's U21 players averaging just 3.1 minutes per game.
Oof. Yeah, that's not much.
Not at all. So for them, the NCAA is this chance for real development visibility they might not get otherwise.
Right. Armstrong calls it an alternative international development platform.
Exactly. And many of these players, they're like 19 to 21 years old. A lot of them already have some pro or semi-pro experience.
Ah, good.
So they see the NCAA as a place to hone skills, get exposure. And yeah, the NIL benefits are a factor too now.
Name, image, and likeness money. Sure.
And Armstrong notes their experience often makes them more, quote, polished than maybe your typical American 17 or 18-year-old freshman.
Which makes sense. And this influx, it's actually changing the makeup of NCAA teams. Right now, international players are about, 16 to 17% of Division I rosters?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah.
And the projection, if this keeps up,
is it could hit 20, maybe even 25% within a decade?
a quarter of all roster spots. That's a potentially massive shift in how college teams look.
So tying this back to why it's happening, Armstrong contrasts the American youth system, AAU, showcases, trainers focusing maybe more on athleticism.
Right, that decentralized model.
He contrasts that with the more structured systems overseas.
Yeah.
He talks about NBA academies in Africa, EuroLeague partnerships, European club models.
Which apparently really drill down on fundamentals, game IQ, and getting professional experience younger.
It sounds like, two pretty different philosophies for developing players. The U.S. system may be more fragmented, focused on the individual star potential.
While the international approach seems more, systematic, grounded in team concepts and skills.
And the article suggests the results are, they're starting to show.
Yeah, the author points to some pretty compelling evidence that the quality gap is narrowing. I mean, think about this.
The MVPs.
Exactly. 7 straight NBA MVPs, 2018 through 2024. Born outside the U.S., Giannis, Jokic, Embiid.
That really does flip the script on how we usually think about the league's top talent.
It does. And it's not just the very top guys either. The 2024 NBA draft,
Right. 11 international players in the top 30 picks.
including number 1 overall, Zachary Riesacker.
And you look at who the NBA promotes globally now, Jokic, Giannis, Luka Doncic, Wembanyama. They're the headliners.
They're the faces of the league worldwide, absolutely.
And even Team USA, Armstrong points out the struggles. 4th place at the 2023 FIBA World Cup.
And some nail-biters in the 2024 Olympics, apparently.
Yeah. It suggests that just assuming American dominance isn't a safe bet anymore.
So what does this all mean for American players, for their families?
Well, Armstrong highlights the NCAA transfer portal. You had over 1,800 men's basketball players transfer in 2023-24 alone.
Wow.
And that system often favors older, more experienced players.
Which can include these international transfers who already have that pro or semi-pro background we talked about.
Right. And then there's the money side for American families.
Yeah, the article mentions AAU and travel ball fees.
Can be $5,000, even $10,000 a year.
That's a huge cost.
Especially when scholarship opportunities might be shrinking slightly because more spots are going international. He notes this hits families in underserved communities particularly hard.
Which brings us to the author's sort of main argument, right?
Yeah. He basically says the U.S. basketball system is slipping. He even uses the word collapse if there isn't some kind of intervention.
And he doesn't think we can rely on the NBA or the NCAA or the usual organizations to fix it.
No, he argues that's futile. And this is where his own project, the No Backboard Basketball League, the NBBL, comes in.
Okay.
He pitches it as a new decentralized platform built from the streets up, a totally different approach.
So what does that actually look like? What's different about it?
Well, there are layers. The core game is called Basketball the Remix, played on something called the UHoop. The idea is to emphasize skill, creativity, fundamentals.
And community ownership, he mentions that too.
Right. It's not just playing differently, it's building a new infrastructure. He talks about a nationwide network of NBBL training gyms.
Like the futsal of basketball, he compares it to. So accessible, year-round skill work.
Exactly. And then there's this whole digital angle.
The blockchain part.
Yeah, a blockchain-powered media platform. Players would actually own their highlights, they could monetize moments, control their digital legacy.
Okay, so blockchain, that's like a secure digital ledger, right? Making sure players get credit and maybe royalties for their stuff.
That seems to be the idea. It sounds pretty forward-thinking, trying to give players more power and financial stake.
The whole model seems geared towards the athletes and economy of stakeholders, as he puts it.
And the NBBL blockchain project, tokenizing IP, smart royalty contracts. It could really change how young players benefit.
So the ultimate goal isn't just better players.
No, Armstrong says it's about developing entrepreneurs too, and really remastering the culture of the game. It's ambitious.
Very comprehensive vision.
And he concludes by saying the stakes are incredibly high. Basketball is still America's sport, he says, but its future here is genuinely at risk without big changes.
He talks about those flashing red lights, the FIBA data, the NCAA numbers, the NBA looking more towards Europe.
Yeah, and the core concern is that American athletes, maybe especially Black athletes who've been so central to the game's identity and history, could get permanently priced out of their own creation. That's a powerful phrase.
It really is. So wrapping this up, our deep dive into Armstrong's article basically shows this significant growing trend of international players in the NCAA.
Yeah, and it's not random. It seems rooted in these different development systems globally, and it has real potential consequences for American talent and, the sport's future in the U.S.
Exactly. And it leaves you thinking, if this trend just keeps going, what does that mean? What are the bigger implications for, global basketball power?
Right. And what does it mean for the identity of American sports, for the opportunities that young American athletes have, not just in hoops, maybe across the board?
It really makes you consider that balance, doesn't it? Between bringing in talent from everywhere and making sure you're developing talent at home. It certainly does. And if you want to dig deeper, remember, this all came from that Mark T. Armstrong article, part 2 of his series. It started with the NBA in Europe. Definitely worth checking out.